Hi, everybody. This is Paul with Don't Panic IT Solutions. A couple years ago, we recognized that there was a need for the average person to be able to understand what's happening with cybersecurity, why there's so many breaches. Government entities, maybe your local, hospitals, police stations, even businesses, personal accounts. A lot of stuff's getting hacked these days, cyber incidents. But basically, yeah, we'll take a look at and see kind of what's going on and hopefully walk you guys through how some of this stuff happens and how you can prevent it. And you can take this to your friends and family, you can take this to your business, and hopefully you can help secure yourself in the modern world. My name is Paul Vreeland. I'm a systems administrator for Don't Panic IT Solutions. I've been in IT for about 20 years, and I've been with Don't Panic IT since 2018. So a little bit about Don't Panic IT. These are the different support lanes that we offer. So let's just dive right into the presentation. So how many sports fans are out there, right? We've got several different sports teams here in Colorado that are very popular. But what we'll look at is some of the attacker tools and how they can exploit patterns. So one of the ways that hackers will get, or attackers, threat actors will get into an environment is something called password spraying or password guessing. Password spraying, let's say you take those sports teams. If you take a sample of maybe a room of 100 people, somebody in there might have a password similar to one of these, like Go Nuggets, exclamation point, Nuggets #1, Colorado #1. These are very common password patterns that a lot of people use just to try to create something memorable and make it so it's easy to get into their systems if they need to. But the attackers also know this, and they exploit these vulnerabilities in how we create our passwords. Password guessing, there's a very, very common pattern. Well, I've seen it a lot because I work in IT. I have to get into systems sometimes, and sometimes we'll have a name of some sort of significant year or a number, and maybe just an exclamation point, right? Early days, we had very simple passwords. Now you have to add a number. Now you have to add something special. We all threw that exclamation point right at the end, or a pound, an exclamation, something similar like that. Very common patterns, and the threat actors know these. So if you're using one of these passwords, you might want to consider changing them, and we'll go into more detail here. All right, so let's take a look at another attacker tool. This is OSINT, or Open Source Intelligence. It's information that's publicly available on the internet. And the OSINT framework here is just resources for people that are interested in knowing where you can find information on the internet. You can dive down into any one of these topics, and it just keeps expanding and keeps expanding. And you can find property records, you can find email addresses, social networks. Anywhere that you can find public information is going to be available to the open source intelligence framework. This is a starting point for a lot of cybersecurity research, and a lot of the threat actors kind of know about these kind of tools and where they can find that kind of information. So another attacker tool available are resources. They have plenty of resources available at their disposal. And in the bottom right, we have the top industries globally with global life and health insurance carriers. That industry has $4.4 trillion worth of revenue in 2021. Think of all the insurance agents, support staff, maintenance facility workers, all those things, everything that's involved in kind of keeping that industry going, all the people, all the payroll. That's a lot of money in that business. And if you look on the bottom left, in 2021, cybercrime was expected to top $6 trillion, just blowing by all those legitimate business industries because there's a lot of money in it. It's all stolen money. And in the background here, we have a screenshot from a tool that is used by both law enforcement and also used by threat actors and just cybersecurity researchers. Maybe you want to have a little piece of information from somebody. Maybe you get something off a business card, their email address, their name, the business name. You can put that in this tool, and you can right-click, and within a couple clicks, you can start sucking information out of that open source intelligence framework and just getting all kinds of data, and you don't have to manually go through all those websites and pull all that data. It can just suck it in, and you kind of build this web of knowledge of who this person might know, where they work, where their address, where they live, photos that they posted. You can kind of get all that information really quickly. Generally, in email, you don't want to click on links, just a good rule of thumb. Let's talk about another attacker tool, phishing. So phishing is when you have a fake email. It's put together by a threat actor. They want to get information out of you. There's usually some sort of urgency, a call to action, right? You have here like a fake PayPal. There's something wrong with your account. Click here. There's a fraud issue. Click here. The IRS. These kind of things. Be very, very careful. Usually, you won't get these kind of emails from the legitimate business. And if you do, one of the ways you can control this situation is break away from the email and control the conversation, right? So if they want to take action, instead of clicking on that link, log directly into your account. Go to PayPal, go to Amazon, take a look and see what's going on in your account with you controlling how you get to that account. You don't want to click on links in an email because you don't know where they could lead. So in the bottom right, we have the Amazon link. It tells us it's going to Amazon.com in the email, but you could tell when we hover that little finger over it to click on it, it's actually going to a totally different website, and we don't know what that website is. So just be very careful when you click on links in email. Another attacker tool is spear phishing. So spear phishing is when you have a very targeted attack. The threat actor usually knows enough about the victim. The victim may be a lower level employee. It may not necessarily be a high level employee, but basically they're trying to get access. They're trying to get their foot in the door, either into your life or into the business. And they send a very legitimate looking email. They might already have information about the victim and how they email, or how the people they correspond with email each other, and use the same sort of cadence and the same sort of speech patterns. And usually, again, there's a call to action here, right? I need a password, I need a document from you, send that payment info over here. You can control the situation, break away, use out-of-band communication, break away from the situation, reach out to that person with a different means. Either email them directly, don't reply back, email them directly. You control the communication there. You can give a phone call, walk over a couple office doors and just say, hey, did you send this email? Is this okay? Just verify before you take any risky actions, especially when it seems something out of the ordinary like this. Another attacker tool is ransomware. Ransomware is a type of malware that if you download and execute it, it starts going through all the files in your computer that might seem critically important to you as a person or as your business, financial statements, tax documents, pictures, videos, work, schoolwork, PDFs, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, and it encrypts everything. And it encrypts it irreversibly. And then they promise to give you a key. Maybe they don't promise. Maybe they say, hey, pay us money. You won't be able to get your files back. It's a very scary situation to go through, especially if it's in a business and you've sort of locked all the company files. That would be a very, very scary day for you if it's your computer that did it. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to protect against this, making sure you have backups in place, making sure you're not clicking on random links in email, not downloading stuff from unknown websites. There's a lot of things. So on the bottom right, we have an email that was sent, right? So let's say a business gets hit by the ransomware and they didn't do anything. They didn't pay up. They didn't pony up any cash. They didn't want to do anything. They just kind of ignored it, restored backups, and went on about their day. Well, before they hit the company or the business with ransomware, a lot of times they'll actually take that information and they've got it. And once the information is copied out of the environment, it's out of your control. It's called a data breach. And they can start going through that at their time. Like they can spend 6 months digging through all those records, and maybe they find a bunch of email addresses, and then they start emailing people. And on the bottom right here, we have a picture where they've emailed some of those recipients or people that you've had contact with, or any email addresses they found, and said, hey, this company, we got information, we got your private information from them. They're not playing ball. They don't care about your security or your privacy. And they start trying to either extort money out of them or ruin your company's reputation or put pressure on the business to really pony up that cash. So another attacker tool is called lateral movement. Lateral movement, once your foot is in the door, right, as a cyber threat actor, you can shift from there, right? You can start contacting other people. Once you get into an email account, you can start looking through all the sent items. Who did they email in the past? What kind of correspondence has this person had? And I hear it all the time. I don't have anything to steal. Well, who do you interact with? And who do you know that might be vulnerable in your life? Cybersecurity isn't just about protecting data and stuff like money. It's also about protecting people too. So I've seen sometimes where somebody's account gets breached, maybe it's Facebook or an email address, and the threat actor starts emailing and messaging people, hey, I'm stuck in Spain and I need money. You think it's coming from a friend or a loved one, and they set up an account, again, another call to action. But yeah, be very careful when you get these kind of messages. You're protecting more than just money and assets. So let's talk about dark web and data breaches. The attackers have thousands of tools at their disposal, including resources such as time and money. I've heard people say, why don't they get a real job? This is their job. And many of them are very good at it. They make a lot of money doing this, right? It's a $6 trillion industry. The level of experience can range from the lone basement hacker, or it's a full-blown criminal business organization. They have accounting, marketing, management departments, support departments, or maybe they're selling malware. There's support departments. You can call a 1-800 number or whatever and get support when you're trying to use their malware to breach somebody. So there's a lot of different levels to how this industry works, and it is a criminal industry. Some attacks are like casting a net, seeing what gets caught, right? Like phishing, you just broadcast out, get a shotgun blasted against the wall, see what sticks, see what kind of information you get out of people, see people click that link, see people try to log into your fake website that you've set up. And some of the attacks are very targeted and specific. Again, it really is up to the person, the threat actor themselves. What are their motives? Who is the person? What is the entity behind that motive? There's a lot of things that go into it. And their roles vary. So you might imagine if you're just a small potato person trying to just make a quick buck from cybercrime, you might be the one trying to just steal data but you don't want to use that data, right? Once you start using data and trying to get money out of people, you create a paper trail. Law enforcement can follow that paper trail. They can follow the money, and it puts a lot more pressure on those people. So maybe somebody just wants to get in there and grab some data and sell it on the dark web. Once it's on the dark web, then somebody that's willing to take on that risk may take that information and start using it against people. So now you've got a whole enterprise of people that are, just trying to make that quick buck, all the way up to people that are trying to really get in there and do some damage. So we're going to take a look at this website called Have I Been Pwned. There's a lot of websites like this. This is a very popular one. And basically you can put in your email address and see if you've been breached. See if your information is out there on the dark web. And a lot of times it's not you. It might be an account. You might have a Target account or Walmart or whatever, some place that you sign up for some sort of account. That place might get breached. And if you have a password or if you have any information that you've given that place, that entity, that information can be breached and end up on the dark web. And now that information is just sitting out there for anybody to take. Sometimes they publish it free for public consumption on the dark web, or sometimes they're trying to sell it for money. But one of the ones I like to show is if you go to Have I Been Pwned and you go to Who's Been Pwned, we're going to take a look at Facebook, because this is the one that is a big eye-opener for a lot of people. So back in 2021, in April 2021, a very large data breach happened. Facebook, 500 million Facebook users were impacted. Now, to give you scale of reference, there are 330 million Americans. So this is more people impacted than all of the Americans in the United States. And this is the kind of information they had, right? They had the dates of birth, email addresses, the employers, genders, geographic locations, names, phone numbers. And you can see on any of these breaches, what kind of information. Some of them, they have passwords, phone numbers, usernames, passwords. So if you're using the same password in a lot of places, you just need to end up on one of these lists. And now they take that username and password combination that's sitting there on the list, and they start trying to log into all kinds of places. But it's very important to have different passwords for every website. So we'll take a look at some threat maps, live threat maps. This is one that's put together by SonicWall. It's a firewall company that sells enterprise-grade firewalls. And one of the things you'll notice is there's all kinds of things going on. This is live traffic data. It may be a little bit behind. This is basically what's happened today, what's happening right now. You can just see there's attacks happening all the time. This is stuff that's caught by their platform, just to show you how many attacks. This is just one view. There's a lot of companies out there that are doing this kind of stuff that have different lenses on the internet. Not one person has access to all the internet. They can't see everything at once. But a lot of these companies do have these kind of analytics, and they have their own lens on the internet. So each one of these live threat maps will have their own view of what they're seeing as far as the attacks go. And they're happening just thousands per second, or millions. I don't know. It's done. So when we think about security, security is a process. It's not a product. You can't buy security, right? You can pay. Imagine you pay a security guard, and they just take a nap. Well, you paid somebody. You bought the thing. Are they doing the procedures? Are they following something to help protect whatever you're hiring them to protect? Or maybe you need a lock on the front of your business. Front door needs a lock. You bought a fancy new lock. You didn't train your staff how to use that lock. It's too fancy. Nobody decides to use it. They just pop a brick in the door and just get in and out that way. Maybe no one checks that the door is actually locked at the end of the day. So you usually develop a process around physical security, right? Last person leaves, locks the door, arms the alarm. When it comes to cybersecurity, it's very similar, right? You can't just buy cybersecurity. You can't buy one thing, and it's not the magic bullet that's going to help protect everything. So we'd like to use this graphic at Don't Panic IT when there is a data breach incident or a cyber incident, and it kind of shows the different layers of protection that you have available and some of the things that Don't Panic IT offers. And for example, we have different layers like the internet layer, the network layer, people layer, apps, and devices. And each one of these layers has their own different pieces that you can use to help protect your business. So let's take a look at a phishing sample. On this phishing sample, this is a fail. This is a good thing, right? The phishing attempt failed. The cyber incident storyboard shows that it failed. So let's say the attacker, they sent an email. It went in through the email protection that you have. You have policies and procedures in place. For some reason, it just didn't stick here. Staff training, maybe somebody was tired, lazy, didn't do something. You have endpoint protection. This is like your antivirus. Patch management, everything's patched up to date. Maybe the last thing that protected it is this piece of software called web protection that will protect your internet from malicious links and that kind of thing. But here it stopped, right? It shows how it goes through all those different layers and how you can still be attacked or you can stop it. Now, I've heard people say, I've got antivirus on my computer. Is that enough? Well, here the antivirus, it made it past antivirus. So if we look at that example, and if all you have is antivirus and you've done nothing else for security, you have no process or anything else, it just zipped right through it. And now you've got a cyber incident on your hands. That could be, you have a data breach, maybe your reputation's hit, maybe you have a financial impact. your operations grind to a halt, server shuts down, everything gets encrypted, ransomware, whatever it is. You don't. This is a bad day. So you don't want to rely on just one thing. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Go ahead and just beef up security everywhere you can. Start building those processes. Let's take a look at what a cybersecurity incident response may look like. This is based on the National Institute for Standards and Technology, or NIST, Special Publication 800-61 Revision 2. This document, or this publication, lays out how to handle an incident. You may need to set up points of contact for authority. You have an incident response team. You may have to set up a war room, secure evidence handling, lawyers, legal team. The business operation leadership may have to be involved just to keep the business afloat while all this is being handled. So this is a bad day. If you have to see one of these documents, if you have to go through this process, it is a very, very bad day. You don't want to go through this. So let's talk about multi-factor authentication. In the old days, think about password management and how we used to secure systems back when you first set up your first password. It might have said, like, what is your mother's maiden name? What's your birthday? What's your first car? In multi-factor authentication, these are just one factor. Now, a factor of proving your identity, a system doesn't know who you are from Adam or Eve. So if you just ask those questions, those knowledge-based questions are one factor of your identity. So something you know, right here in the middle lock, something you know, or lots of things you know, is just a knowledge base. That's just one factor of your identity. Another way that we can prove to information systems that we are who we say we are is something you have, physical token. This could be a key card to gain access that you're issued. It could be your cell phone. If you have multi-factor, like if you log into your bank, you get a code to your phone. It proves you know your password to get into the account, but then you also have something that you have, your mobile device. So you need that second factor. And you can add more. You can add as many factors as you want. Multi-factor authentication. A lot of places just use 2. You can add biometrics, retinal scan, fingerprint, voice print. Those kind of things are something you are factors. Let's talk about 5 tips for cybersecurity that you can take right now with you to your friends and family, your business, and help protect yourself and your loved ones online. Use strong passwords. Don't use those weak passwords. Go Broncos, #1, right? That's a terrible password. If you can use a password generator, passphrases, look into this stuff. Don't reuse your passwords. When we look at have I been pwned, you end up on a breach list with a username and password combination, and now it's out there. And if you're using that password for your bank and your Facebook and your email, now they can do lateral movement and start hopping into other accounts and get into other things. And pretty soon you're having a really bad day before you even know you're having a bad day. 3, password manager. There's a lot of password managers out there. Password manager basically just it's like a keychain for your internet passwords or your login passwords. Bitwarden, LastPass. I know Nord has one. Doesn't matter who you use. Use a password manager. It's going to help you have one password that you remember. You create a super secure password usually to get into the password manager. Maybe you have multi-factor authentication to get into that wallet or keychain or whatever they call it. But then once you're in, then you can use that password manager to remember the passwords for you. You don't have to remember all your passwords. Use the password manager to do that work for you. Set up multi-factor authentication everywhere you can. Go to Facebook, go to your bank, go anywhere you can. Go to your account settings, go to the security area, see if you can set up multi-factor authentication. If it's important enough to you, ask whoever if you can set up multi-factor authentication, and they should be able to provide you with some information about how to do that. And encrypt your devices. Most mobile phones these days, I think, are coming encrypted out of the box. If not, look in the settings, see if you can encrypt it. That's a very simple process. You just tap a couple buttons and encrypt your phone. But then the only way to get into that phone is to use the methods of getting into the phone that you've set up. You have a passcode or some sort of biometric like fingerprint or Face ID. Those are the only way to get in the phone. Somebody can't physically open the phone and tap into the data because it's all encrypted. Hopefully you learned something during this presentation. I bet a lot of you probably need to change your passwords. Do it right now, or set aside some time on your calendar. Do it. If you don't care, it's going to happen. It's happening to your friends and family. Just don't get hacked. Protect yourself.